Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode, nay, the episode that best summarizes what my hosting ability has done to Rotten Tomatoes. Disaster.
Or as some of us have come to call it, the freak show.
Yep, today we're doing a disastrous deep dive into the flicks that warn us about the future, make us panic in the present, and most of all make us say, wow, it sucks to be those people. Disaster movies have been a staple of popular cinema for decades, and finally, we get to settle the age-old debate. Which type of disaster movies are truly the best or the worst? I used to think like you, dear viewer. What do you mean, type of disaster movie? Bad stuff happens. That's it. They're all the same. But believing that would make one more short-sighted than the sniveling weasel Secretary of State in Independence Day.
Shut up, Captain! Get him out of here!
Our expert team here in the Tomato Patch has arrived at 4 different subgenres within the realm of disaster movies, so it's going to be weather flicks versus space movies versus man-made mistakes versus wildcard motion pictures. And before you send that angry tweet, when I say man-made, I'm referring to human-made disasters.
This was a real good idea.
So why not just say that instead? Well, let's be honest. Most of these horrific events are the fault of dudes. We're just not that good at smart.
You're really starting to make us look bad.
So here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. Round 3, iconic characters. Round 4, most disastrous. And then we'll do a wildcard round that has absolutely no relation whatsoever to the wildcard disaster subphylum. It's just a coincidence. You know, like when a boat hits an iceberg, or it's the apocalypse, or an asteroid is chewing its way to Earth, or a raging twister throws a cow at you. That last one really hurt me personally because it's the movie that broke up the second incarnation of Van Halen. Okay, got that one out of the way early. Buckle your seatbelts, kids, because there is no tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, you might want to wear some mittens. Let's get it on! Round 1, box office. For a variety of reasons, disaster movies have been anything but that at the box office. It's likely similar to why we love going to see horror flicks or suspenseful thrillers opening weekend. Audiences love catching a cinematic event that hopefully showcases a much more tragic and entertaining fate than our own.
I don't know about you, but I intend to write a strongly worded letter to the White Star Line about all this.
It also helps us game plan how to avoid such a future in our own lives and communities, but above all else, it's fun to watch stuff blow up on the biggest screen imaginable. Of the 16 motion pictures being showcased today, only 5 grossed below $100 million domestically, and Volcano and Contagion got oh so close. In fact, 'twas a disaster movie that owned the title of all-time box office king for a cool decade. Fortunately, most of the other films we're going to talk about today are not based on a true story like Titanic. Unfortunately, Celine Dion wasn't asked to do the soundtrack for any of these other flicks, unless you count Beauty and the Beast as a disaster movie, which, if you're Belle, you might, given the legality of marrying a beast in certain states.
What did you say?
Titanic counts as a man-made disaster movie, and it joins forces with other big-time people falters like The Towering Inferno and The Day After Tomorrow. If only that fire broke out on The Day After Tomorrow. Could have, warmed things up a little bit, but then we just breathe in whatever Gwyneth Paltrow and a million other poor souls did in Contagion. Those are the 4 human-caused movies, and they combine to make a hefty per-flick average of $544 million per movie, obviously led by Titanic's $1.2 billion domestic take. My wallet will go on.
And she was what Mother called new money.
You know what else will go on? Fun space adventures, where we get our asses kicked for most of the movie. It's so much more fun to be losing for 2 hours when Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, and company are there to keep us entertained.
I could have been at a barbecue!
Independence Day headlines the Space Disaster Movies faction, and that 1996 super hit's mega box office dollars can only be attributed to President Bill Pullman's rousing speech.
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Cloverfield had some laughs, but took itself more seriously. War of the Worlds took itself super seriously. And Armageddon, has no idea what the word serious means because it dropped out of school after kindergarten.
This is space! Because we're just in the beginning part of space. We haven't even gotten to outer space yet.
Still, Bruce, Ben, and Aerosmith Saving the Planet did just shy of $400 million, and the space movies make up for a healthy competition to the man-made movies as they average $367 million per flick.
Ah, who's the man?
Weather-heavy disaster films also came to play and stormed their way into the field with the quintessential disaster film that saw the light of day the same year as ID4. 1996's Twister tornadoed its way to buffo numbers, and 2012 borrowed an ID4 director to gross over $200 million on its own. San Andreas and Volcano bring up the rear, but still do enough to get weather oopsies, an average of $242 million per flick. It's been a good game thus far, but it appears that man-made mishaps are going to take the round. But wait, what's that? Good God, that's Wildcard's music. The Wildcard team could be anything. There's the insanely fun crocodile movie Crawl. Oh wait, they're alligators? Or they're both? Crawl has lots of scary swamp dinosaurs, and if it's water you like, we can fill up that Brita filter with Underwater, another surprise good time movie starring Kristen Stewart. You a fan of good times? Then let's party with the only straight comedy in this episode, 2013's This Is the End. Then we also have The Wave, which I'm told is about a giant wave. I'm sorry, not a wave, the wave. It's going to be a fun bracket-busting category, I'm sure. But sadly, only This Is the End crossed the $100 million mark at the box office. What? No way. Which means two things. It has no shot of scoring a point in this round, and we as a nation failed Crawl. It was so damn entertaining. Angry thicket aqua lizards? Come on, America. Space Movies did a hell of a job adjudicating itself in this round, but numbers don't lie, and neither do giant sail barges. Titanic helps steam man-made mistakes to a win here, and it's sort of poetic that we have a 70s throwback in the towering inferno, a generational love story with Titanic, and a super cold futuristic doom harbinger in The Day After Tomorrow, all getting us on board together. Plus Contagion, which inexplicably shot way up the charts at the start of the pandemic. Really, y'all? Watch Crawl instead. Anyway, human-caused disasters get the win in round one, and they go up 1-0.
Winning that ticket, Rose, was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Round 2, Tomatometer / Audience Score. Speaking of the team that won round 1, man, am I interested to see how this one plays out. Big-time disaster movies like Armageddon tend to not do well with critics, although Titanic certainly did. As a matter of fact, the only thing those two movies do have in common is that they were recently featured on Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong, available wherever you enjoy podcasts. And my friend Justine Marino saw both of those movies an average of 15 times each in the theater. She's a very funny comedian and apparently Fandango user of the century. Okay, fun's over, Mark. Back to work. Armageddon's soundtrack was aerodynamically designed to shoot to the top of the Billboard charts. However, the film itself experienced the opposite fate on the Tomatometer.
Makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's the low mark of any disaster film in competition today, sporting just 38%. But don't worry, astronaut ice cream enthusiast, every other space movie is fresh. Yes, even Independence Day is ripe at 67%, and both Cloverfield and War of the Worlds are in the 70s at 75 and 78% respectively. That puts some respect on Space's name, and that faction averages out to a fresh 64.5%. Weather, wouldn't be so lucky. We had a parade planned, but raining on it is the fact that none of our Fritz Colemans are fresh. He's a TV weather person, and so I think I'm just going to keep doing that joke.
Is that funny?
2012 is so happy Armageddon exists because without that movie in 1998, this 2012 movie would have been the low bar at 39%. Volcano and San Andreas gave a good showing, but are also rotten at 49% each. And Twister pulls a Spaceballs in that it's as close as you can get to fresh and should be fresh. We'll talk about it on the podcast at 59%. What, did we not throw enough cows at you? It's got Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt for crying out loud. The tomato meter isn't mad about weather films, as they average just 49%. After round one, I'm very nervous to put Wildcard Motion Pictures back in the game. I just don't want them to come in last again. Oh, and they're fresh. Holy crap, they're all fresh, except Underwater at 47%. But let's not drown the lead. The 3 other wildcard flicks are above 80%. This Is the End in the Wave are at 83%, and Crawl is only 16% short of where it belongs, currently at 84%. So that makes wildcards the breadwinner average of 74.25%. Hang on to that quarter, my wildlings, because here comes a huge boat. Man-made accidents are once again competitive thanks to Titanic's 89% and Contagion's 85%. Those are actually the 2 highest tomato meter digits for all of our bittersweet 16 talkies. The Towering Inferno slips a little bit but remains fresh with 69%, but Here Comes the Day After Tomorrow peeing in the snow at 45%. Damn it, Gyllenhaal! That takes man-made movies down to a 72% average, which means wildcard flicks are in the lead. Okay, audience score, now the spotlight is on you. And if you didn't reward that flying bovine, Twister is once again robbed of a fresh rating. This time at 58%. Folks just do not care about Willard Scott's.
This is not good. Get us out of here.
I'm trying.
They only average 47.25% on the audience metric, and that makes them the only team not fresh. Independence Day and Armageddon shuttle space movies just passed Titanic and the Towering Inferno's man-made squad with an average of 64.25% to 63.25%. The door is open for wildcards, and here comes the Croca Gators crawling through. Crawl is tied with ID4 for the highest audience score of all films here with 75%. And the Wild Things crew is the only outfit to boast all 4 movies being fresh with the audience. Its average is 68%, and that earns them a definitive victory in round 2. It's people 1, wilds 1, space 0, and weather 0, with a wind chill of -9. Dallas Raines would have found that funny.
Ooh, that's good. That was good.
Round 3, iconic characters. Let's be honest, we go to see these movies for the destruction. Nothing detaches the Velcro from my wallet faster than a giant movie poster with tornadoes or aliens or fire or alligator crocodiles, but as enjoyable as that stuff can be, and we'll see just how fun in the next round, more often than not, we leave the theater swept up in the emotion generated by characters and relationships we didn't expect to care about at all. I went into Titanic ready to root against Kate and Basketball Diaries. I walked out saying the unthinkable. F that Billy Zane.
You will honor me. You will honor me the way a wife is required to honor a husband.
Jack and Rose are certainly worthy of iconic status. They saw each other naked under the guise of art, danced the night away, and managed to get a car so steamy that Herbie the Love Bug needed coolant. We all knew it was going to be an epic disaster film. We had no idea it would be the characters that kept us coming back for more. For some people, 20 times more. Justine. But it's arguable that Titanic doesn't even have the best cast in its own division. That's right, if it's man-made disasters you want, how about dudes like Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, and Fred Astaire in The Towering Inferno? Faye Dunaway is great in there too. Lots of famous folks similarly appear in Contagion and The Day After Tomorrow, but the connections aren't as memorable unless there's a fire or a band playing as the ship sinks into the ocean. I will give a nod to Lawrence Fishburne in Contagion though, because he's a doctor and his first name, you guessed it, Ellis. Way to play for our team, Larry. Can I call you Larry? No? Thank you, Lawrence. Will they, won't they couples seem to play well in Disaster Fair, which is one of the reasons that Twister is such a hoot. Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt were clearly made for each other, even if that means they'll get a divorce, and then remarry each other, and then divorce, and then rinse and repeat every decade. Plus, Twister gives us classic rock aficionado Food, played by the incomparable Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Carrie Elways is a baddie you root against, but don't hate quite as much as, say, Billy Zane in Titanic.
There's nothing I'd deny you, if you would not deny me.
After all, at least Carrie was in The Princess Bride. However, Al Roker might be disappointed in this round because the only thing I might champion in a disaster movie more than a sweet couple is a solid father-daughter dance. No Armageddon, wait your turn.
Okay.
I'm talking about Barry Pepper and Kaya Scodelario in Crawl. You genuinely care about them both, and Kaya's Haley character gets major bonus points because she's battling some gators, and guess where she swims in college? Florida. Their mascot? The Gators. Get it? Take a backseat, Tim Tebow. We got a new star athlete on campus. The wildcard bracket also scores some major points with the bevy of celebrities lampooning themselves, like Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill, and the scene-stealing Michael Cera.
Everybody listen up! Who took my cell phone, man?
Craig Robinson might get the good guy MVP in this subgenre, but in order to compete with man-made disaster flicks in this round, we're gonna have to do some space trucking. All I have to say is, woo! As in the Will Smith variety, not Ric Flair. Independence Day could have gotten away with stock, boring performers and still done a boatload of business off the premise alone, but like Titanic, we kept coming back for more because of Will Smith's brave pilot, Jeff Goldblum's nerdy cable repairman, Bill Pullman saying anything, and Randy Quaid doing anything. Even those with less screen time, like Vivica A. Fox, Mary McDonnell, and Harry Connick Jr., make the most of their scenes. Oh, and we have Robert Loggia. First rule of math, it's always addition if it involves Loggia. Any of these categories would have loved to have had a cast that presents as many different dynamics as Independence Day. We get bromance with Will Harry and Jeff Will. We get devoted couples like Bill, Mary, Vivica Will, father-son with Judd Hirsch, Jeff, and the loose cannon with Randy and whatever Randy was drinking. And aliens that use Netscape Navigator. Space feature films already have a good argument with just one movie, so let's pile on War of the Worlds as a much more serious, but still heartstring-tugging feels generated by Tom Cruise's dad to Dakota Fanning's daughter character. While those aliens were turning humanity into angel hair pasta, Cloverfield was showcasing a genuinely cool new monster with some biting humor, but to get a win in this round, Space Movies needs one more knockout punch, and with sincere apologies to anyone watching this with the last name Gruber, here comes Bruce Willis. Him and his oil drilling crew treated that giant asteroid no better than John McClane handled Hans and Simon, and in the process, they won our hearts. You want a father-daughter tearjerker? Armageddon has it. Liv Tyler watching her dad pull a switcheroo to sacrifice himself so she can date Ben Affleck until he meets J-Lo still gives me the feels all these many years later. The entire crew in Armageddon is just so damn likable and chock full of star power. Owen Wilson, Michael Clark Duncan, Steve Buscemi, William Fisher, Peter Stormare, and the always reliable Will Patton. And that's the fellas on The Rock. Back home, we saddle Billy Bob Thornton with most of the ridiculous dialogue, but he spins it like a champ. He literally had to talk audiences into believing oil drillers would do this mission better than actual astronauts, and we bought it. That asteroid is the size of Texas, and so is the public's affinity for Armageddon. And yes, I'm also counting the bad boys from Boston as characters in that movie. If Twister broke up Van Halen, again, Armageddon might have kept Aerosmith together to this very day. Are they cool with the drummer again from that Vegas thing? Maybe I'll have to have the ID4 aliens ask Jeeves that question on the World Wide Web. Humans accidentally wrecking shop movies gave us a good fight in this round, but it's the humans we love for wrecking aliens and asteroids that get the win.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
Space Movies wins the round and get on the board. Okay, weather movies, time to put up or shut up.
Okay, it's gonna be okay.
Round 4, most disastrous. Yeah, so the characters are cool and all, but you know what's even better than seeing a huge movie star like The Rock? How about The Rock saving the world from an earthquake? And no, he didn't just save the West Coast. Just ask Paul Giamatti as he terrifiedly removes his glasses. This round is all about destruction. Which sequences truly give us the most thrills, chills, and induce more? Thank heavens we're watching this movie and not in it. Wildcard Destruction gets on the board early thanks to a ginormous underwater explosion in the accurately titled film, Underwater. We also have a giant monster that adds to the fun. Speaking of water, did I also mention the crawl has a hurricane in it? So yeah, we get some cool big picture destruction, but it's those close quarter moments of tension that score the biggest in the Paul Hogan legacy movie. The Wave conjures serious emotions with its tsunami, as we've seen real life ones wreak havoc on coastlines and lead the news for weeks the last couple of decades. You cannot count out wildcarders in this round, as they also have that little apocalypse thing going for it. This Is the End has tons of laughs, but that Earth opening sequence at the climax of the film is no joke. Weather flicks need a big score here, and boy do they get it. 2012 has an apocalyptic level feel to it because we get everything Mother Nature could possibly toss at us. Giant waves, earthquakes, floods, dogs and cats living together, And given that it's directed by Roland Emmerich, we get to see all of it in its glorious end-of-the-world Technicolor greatness. The relationships in that movie are, but wow is it a sight to watch the Earth rebel against the limo drivers. San Andreas stars the aforementioned Dwayne Johnson as a hella rescue hero who flies all up and down wine country witnessing the biggest quake in recorded history. California really gets its comeuppance in this specific film of disaster because the geological event known as volcano spews hot lava all over us good-looking 90210ers. But weather movies don't just beat up Hollywood. The Midwest gets a few more punches courtesy of the twisters in... What was the name of that? Oh, right. Twister. And Jan de Bont's direction puts us right in the eye of the storm alongside Dorothy. We pivot to space movies to even the score on the East Coast. Cloverfield makes sure that no exotic dance clubs will ever exist again in Times Square. Meanwhile, both Independence Day and War of the Worlds take pride in leveling equal opportunity uppercuts all across the globe. ID4 has such a ball in blowing up virtually every man-made structure in the world, and War of the Worlds gives us a much more in-depth look at how aliens might treat us when we meet them. It's, not good. E.T. was a lie. But for all the love Armageddon got in the iconic character round, it's not going to be as much of a force here simply because the whole point of the movie is to avoid the disaster in the first place. Now, we do get lots of meteorite carnage and a crap ton of shrapnel hitting our planet, so thanks again to Harry Stamper and the gang for successfully avoiding humanity's permanent vacation. Dude fault movies have been a thread in each and every round thus far, and while flicks like Contagion certainly feature destruction, it's not on the epic fun scale of a weather or space movie. It's just a lot of famous people coughing really, really bad. The Towering Inferno pioneered large-scale effects with the torching of the San Francisco high-rise, and Titanic honored the legacy of those we lost by having the boat in the movie sink in real time, accurate with how fast it actually went down back in 1912. The day after tomorrow is the team MVP here, as the storms that ensue wipe out most of our towns, cities, and 7-Elevens. But there's something so pure about the spectacle of Earth's own ecosystem hitting the reset button. Now, when you or I want to recharge, we take a nap. Mama Nature conjures a storm, quake, or wave so powerful that it can fell billions of regular folks and a handful of celebrities in the process. The Independence Day aliens gave a Charles Barkley-like effort in this round, but they ran into the Michael Jordan of destruction, 2012. Did I really just compare Michael Jordan to that movie? All this madness and mayhem has gone to my head. Sorry, Mike, don't take it personally. Oh, he already did. The Weather Channel takes the round, and as we'll see here, we have a front coming in that ties the ball game. It's 1 to 1 to 1 to 1.
Holy shit, do you guys realize what this means?
And now it's time for the Wildcard Round. Awards. Awards, really? No. I'm kidding. It's best of the best time. We've seen every faction score 1 point, but in true bracket style, only one movie can emerge from each division in a winner-take-all brawl that will determine the match. After much deliberation and, yes, napping, I've arrived at the following champions. Representing weather will be Twister. Battling on behalf of man-made oopsies is Titanic. The space representative will be Independence Day. It's going to be Independence Day. And crawling through the wildcard genre will be... Come on, did you expect anything different? It's Crawl, baby. And them Crocodators are going to have a rough outing here. They make for some fun villains and serious tension throughout the movie, but overall, Crawl just can't match the epic scale and heartfelt emotion of its blockbuster competition. Twister can, as it has some real firepower in terms of stars, engrossing plot, emotional bandwidth, and lots of wind. What I enjoy about this flick is that these brave humans are seeking out the disaster in order to learn more about it. They're not reacting to some imposing threat as much as they are trying to figure out how to best prepare and defend us against these tornadoes. The love triangle of Paxton, Hunt, Elways, and the ragtag group of supporting players along for the ride adds a believable, captivating human element to the story that reaches levels we don't normally get in disaster movie fare. But the emotions ratchet to an all-time high with Titanic because it has so many different ways to get us invested. Jack is an underdog from the get-go, and we just want the poor guy to get on the boat before it takes off. Once there, the audience puts our knowledge of history aside in favor of a cavalcade of new and engrossing folks to either root for or against. And by the time the massive destruction begins, we marry our fondness for Jack and Rose with our sadness at a fate sealed at sea, and it all leads to Kleenex stocks soaring. Was there room on the raft for Jack? Probably. But that's not the point. He sacrificed himself to ensure Rose's heart would go on. And they probably would have broken up within, 6 weeks on the mainland? Let's be real.
You are rude and uncouth and presumptuous, and I am leaving now.
Independence Day should feel satisfied just by defeating Armageddon to get to this point, but if you've seen ID4, you know that flick has a tone of invincibility when it comes to sheer bang for your popcorn buck. Who cares about logic and science and plausibility when we can have this much fun instead? Painstaking detail went into remaking a barge to look exactly like the Titanic, and Twister feels like you're joyriding along with real tornado watchers. Independence Day employs a different strategy. Its goal is to make the audience feel like they can join in the fight and win the day against an imposing alien presence. We all have a fun friend like Will Smith's Captain Hillard, they're just not a fighter pilot. We all know a tech junkie, they're just not experts in alien communication. And we all know a Randy Quaid. Many, many Randy Quaids. We probably have met the real one at some point. We all feel like we could even become the president of the United States, who, by the way, in this movie, is also a fighter pilot. Other champion disaster movies happen to have unexpected rewards, like we care about a relationship, or we get to see special effects, or God forbid, we even learn something real about science. But Independence Day works the best as a disaster movie for the simple reason that it's more than a motion picture, it's a whole amusement park with one thrilling ride after another. The laughs, the chills, the thrills never let up, and in the end, we get people to care about and cool effects and real science. Look, it was the first time I heard triangulate used in a sentence, so I think that counts as learning. The best disaster movies give us a good time, even as we're witnessing cinematic tragedies unfold on the biggest scale imaginable. To have aliens attack and nukes go off and billions of death is easy. To have us all witness that, walk out of the theater with a giant smile on our face and say, I want to ride that again, that takes craft. It's a tough call between ID4 and Titanic. Titanic had the guts to kill off a main character, but Independence Day saved the dog. And for that, and all the other hoots and hollers it's given us ever since, it wins the round and gets Team Space Disaster Movies the win in today's episode.
I mean, after this is over, could I get a hug from you or something?
And for Jack and Rose stans or tornado aficionados or all you, well, I think it is just alligators and crawl, you probably think that my decision to crown space movies the champ here is a disaster.
You are so annoying.
But here's the beauty of that. Now it is your turn. You call your shot and let us know which disaster movie style fits you the best. Do you prefer epic shipwrecks at sea, hungry swamp creatures, towering infernos, or John Cusack, dodging most of that stuff in a very unmaneuverable car? Hit me up on social media with your take at Mark Ellis Live, and let us know at Rotten Tomatoes where you stand. Or where you stood until that giant meteorite hit you. I'm Mark Ellis. I will not stay awake just to hear you breathing because it's kind of creepy. Until next time, be safe, humans, and all you extraterrestrials watching.
Welcome to Earth.